rolling here in this second half. We got a ball game in Arlington.
3rd down and 4. Beck's going to throw, and Daniels has the first down. It's 1st and goal for the Hurricanes. Brown into the end zone. Touchdown, Miami. The Buckeyes' reign is over. There will be a new champion. Miami advances to the semifinal. Their biggest win in 23 years.
Good morning and Happy New Year. Welcome to 2026 and welcome to First Take. Courtney Cronin here with Ryan Clark and Harry Douglas. Mike Tannenbaum will be joining us in just a moment. Did you guys stay up for ball drop last night?
Oh, yeah, me, my 6-year-old, my 9-year-old, and my wife. Woo. Air horns.
Yo, we're deep, huh?
Oh, man. Air horns in the hotel
you were asleep
room
by
at
10
12
o'clock, yeah?
No, I made it until 12, but I was asleep at 12:01. I was going to sleep as the ball dropped. I didn't even know it did. Thank God, though, we made it.
You know the best thing that we did,
2026.
though? As soon as 12 o'clock hit, they made the noise, the whole 9, but we said a family prayer to bring in New Year. That was my highlight of my day.
Absolutely.
Some good vibes to bring in the 2026 year. We had college football. We know that New Year's Day is all about college football, and the CFP quarterfinals kick things off on New Year's Eve with the Goodyear Cotton Bowl Classic between Miami and Ohio State. The Hurricanes pulling off the biggest upset of the CFP era when they sent the defending national champion Buckeyes home with a 24-14 loss. Ohio State's offense showed a little bit of life in the second half, but Miami's run game and the defense led the Canes to a win. Here's Carson Beck and Ohio State head coach Ryan Day after the game.
This is all I got. This is what I've lived for my whole entire life. You know, when you get in these big-time moments, you fall back on your preparation, and when, the moment calls up, you rise to it.
We put ourselves behind the 8 ball. We worked really hard during the last 3 weeks leading up to this game to come out of the gates and win the first quarter, win the first half, be ready to go. I thought we had an excellent plan on that and what we did. I think the guys bought into it, but at the end of the day, we didn't get it done, and that starts with me.
The part I hear from Ryan Day the most, RC, is we spent the last 3 weeks preparing for this game. This is a team that came out flat. It was 14-0 in no time. And that pick six, which happens in the second quarter, was the back-breaking interception, the back-breaking play they could not recover from. So do you walk away today more impressed by Miami in the way they pulled that off or disappointed by Ohio State?
I'm more impressed with Miami. Miami is this year's college football playoff Ohio State. Okay. The U is back. If you play for Miami, you look to the sideline, and it's not people that we theoretically call Hall of Famers. It's real Hall of Famers on the sideline. Michael Irvin reliving the White House Mike days. Ray Lewis on the sideline pacing up and down. Andre Johnson, Edgerrin James. And when Keontae Scott gets that interception and it's the pick six, you can't tell me you're not thinking of Antrell Roll and Sean Taylor, right? When Jacoby Thomas finishes the game with an interception, you can't tell me you're not thinking of Ed Reed finishing the game with an interception, right? When they're running the football, when Fletcher is getting down the field, when you're a 4-minute game and you're pounding the rock, you can't tell me you ain't thinking about Frank Gore and Edgerrin James. And then the only player that shows up for Ohio State is actually from South Florida. So if you are Miami right now, you are thinking to yourself, the U is back. We are the same team that we always said we were, whether it was back in the day with Warren Sapp and those guys, or when it was Ray Lewis, or when it was Ed Reed and Sean Taylor, Jeremy Shockey. If you're the Miami Hurricanes, you feel so good about where you are because every single question about whether or not you belong has been answered.
Yeah, I agree. I think it was all Miami. It was the physicality of Miami that was on display last night. We seen it in the first college football playoff game when they went to Texas A&M on the road. It was the physicality there with that defense with Rumi Bain and Hakeem Messador as defensive ends, and also Fletcher at the running back position. They rushed the football effectively in that first game, and then last night they brought the fight to Ohio State. Ohio State, they were more receiving everything versus giving everything. Sure. And you see Michael Irvin on this screen over here with this belt in his hand. That's exactly what happened when you looked at the Miami Hurricanes, but it all starts with their head coach. See, their head coach, Mario Cristobal, he's a guy that won 2 national championships at Miami. He understands more than anybody what the U is when you talk about the U is back. Mario Cristobal is a guy that was an offensive lineman, so he understands the trenches. He did it when he was at Alabama as an assistant coach. When he was the head coach at Oregon, it was all about the trenches. But he had this recruiting class that Reuben Bain Jr. was a part of, right, that changed the trajectory of Miami football. to being back to where they were in the 90s, in the early 2000s when they were winning national championships. But for me, when I look at Ohio State, I don't think it was a fluke what we seen last night. I don't think it's just, hey, you know, they had 25 days off, because if you go back to that Big Ten championship game, they got whooped just like that versus Indiana. So I think it was their DNA this season. Mm-hmm. And Miami just had the same DNA with better athletes, in my opinion, than Indiana did, and they exploited them once again for the second game.
The thing that you didn't mention about Mario Cristobal is when you're talking about all of those dudes on the sideline, there's something that people who played for certain schools or who are from a certain area understand that visiting coaches don't, right? Like when Brian Kelly comes to LSU and I'm walking up to go to Pro Day and people are asking me, who are you with? Well, I'm by myself because my picture is up in this weight room, right? I get to walk in because I'm part of why these buildings stand. He understands that about Miami. Everybody who played at that school can walk that sideline, can talk to those kids, can touch those kids. You can see legacy whenever you walk into that building. That's what it's about. If you have a school that has history, allow history to be a part of your present. And I think as much as he's realized building a team from the trenches and what it means to be physical and how all of those things help you execute when it comes to the X's and O's, he also understands what the energy of Miami is about. And having people like Michael Irvin there with that sort of access is huge.
Well, and he's the first person to tell you that Miami isn't back yet. It was careful to say that in the post-game interview. You said, we're getting there.
Because he's one of the staples, though, right?
Of
because
course.
He understands what it means to be fully back. But to RC's point, look at his coaching staff. You have a guy in Jason Taylor, even though he didn't play at the University of Miami, he played for the Miami Dolphins, right? And he was a staple in that community. You look at the wide receiver coach, Kevin Beard, played at Miami. The offensive line coach played high school football with Mario Cristobal. So a lot of guys on their coaching staff is embedded in that community, and they understand what it means to be a Miami Hurricane because they grew up with it.
Well, let's look at the other side of this, because I've got a lot of questions about what happened with Ryan Day, Harry, and just where the blame is assigned here. So we know Brian Hartline, offensive coordinator, he's going to be USF's coach. Who was calling plays yesterday? Not Brian Hartline. That was Ryan Day's decision. He took over play calling duties. Both of you guys know how long it takes to get into a rhythm. He hasn't done it in 2 years. So the offense starts out slow. A little bit of life there in the second half. When they come back, they're running a lot of 12 personnel, but they were never able to get the job done. As you look at, and you heard Ryan Day there earlier, and you look at the totality of what it means to have a defending national champion out, how much blame do you assign to Ryan Day?
He has to get a lot of the blame. When I look at the two losses that Miami had this season versus Louisville and SMU, and what both of those schools were able to do versus Miami's defense which is a very aggressive defense, they used their aggressiveness against them. You look at the game versus Miami had versus Louisville, Jeff Brom probably gave them 7 or 8 different personnels or 7 or 8 different looks on offense on the very first drive. That's not what I seen from an Ohio State football team last night. What I seen from Ohio State is, hey, we're the big bad Ohio State Buckeyes. We are the Ohio State University. We're going to do what we do. But I also thought that Ryan Day didn't put his young quarterback in the best situation, right? Because he allowed him to drop back and pass the football when he should have been running the football a little bit more like he did in the second half. Protect your quarterback and allow him to feel that game. So when it comes to that part of it, and then also when you're preparing for a matchup, when you've been off for 25 days, you can prepare your team for a team like Miami because you have the 5-star recruits. You have an Arvell Reese who's going to be a first-round draft pick. They have guys, 4 or 5 guys on their defense that are going to be first-round draft pick. So you have to go good on good. You have to be physical in practice because if you were playing a game that weekend, the previous weekend that Miami did, you would have been physical in that matchup.